So therefore, maybe our next guest, Jeff Manishen, should take that job. Good morning, Mr. Manishen.
Good morning, Michael.
Okay.
Good morning, David.
Good morning, Jeff.
Were you a big aerobics guy?
No, not on TV, not at home. Okay, no. God, what was the old push-up? Sit down at the table, have your meal, and push up away from the table.
There was no leg warmers for you or any of that kind of stuff?
Gosh, no. I grew up in Winnipeg, mind you. We needed a lot more than legs to keep long underwear right there.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Eddie Greenspan either was probably an aerobics champion.
Not in the slightest. I think he had one time took up golf, but then his friend George Jonas introduced him to a motorcycle and taught him how to ride it and didn't talk to him about brakes.
Ooh.
Uh-oh.
And Eddie went into a wall, broke both his wrists.
Oh no!
And that gave his little foray in golf ended.
I've never heard that story. I didn't know he did that.
That's it. And in fact, the line that apparently Peter Demeter, serving life sentence, said, "Gee, if I'd known this about motorcycles, I could have made my life a lot simpler."
Well, great to have you in. I know you're heading down to the Blue Jay game, which you couldn't ask for a better day. But I'm sure after we saw what happened last night, you could hope for a better ending.
Outstanding. When you pick up a reliever off the scrap heap, like Tyler Clifford, so he's reverted to the mean. He gave you some good outings and then give up a grand slam and cost you. But if there's one thing that's worse than having fingernails pulled out is a reliever who can't throw strikes.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah, that was bad.
So true.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Ball one, ball two, next hitter.
Who are our starters today? Who starts today?
I think it's Estrada for the Jays. I haven't picked up who is on for the Angels, but it's not Ohtani. He pitched on Sunday. Hopefully, we'll see Ohtani hit.
Well, you'll see him hit. I'm sure. Like, and just as a physical specimen, this guy's huge too. He's a big man.
What I can't get over and seeing some of the highlights last night is his coordination. You can really see it.
Yeah.
I mean, you see him at the plate. You see the swing. You see the stance, the way he runs. You can see why he's that kind of talent.
Now, it's interesting. Yesterday, as the NFL has come down saying that their new policy is that if you want to kneel, it's banning the kneeling during the national anthem. Those that want to do it, I guess they can do it inside the dressing room. Otherwise, there would be a penalty, which always seemed weird, like literally like a 15-yard penalty. But more importantly, it's probably about the financial hit that you would take by doing it. But I also think in that vein, because it's just the timing of how life is sometimes, that we saw Sterling Brown in Milwaukee, who plays for the Bucks, where there's like 10 police officers over a parking violation in a Walgreens. And so the reason Colin Kaepernick did this from a social standpoint to begin with was for that what the appearance of inequality, the police towards their community. So to that extent, I'm arguing that it hasn't changed, and that maybe this whole kneeling thing, it might have a little more value than just sort of how it was the optics of it the first time around, which was, no, okay, everyone can see you, it's on national television, the cameras are zooming in. But if you watch that tape that the police have from, it actually was a portable camera right on their person. A cop yells, "Taser," and you can hear him grunting on the ground. It's horrifying. So all of a sudden, that Kaepernick kneeling doesn't seem as far-fetched as maybe some of us would like to believe.
Yeah, I saw that. And actually, what I gathered from the story I saw, Mike, he was actually double parked in a handicapped spot outside of Walgreens. So he comes out of the store, and there's a police officer that confronts him. And he's calm. He doesn't react at all. Brown doesn't. And I guess what are you stopping me for? Boom, boom, boom. We got a bunch of extra police officers there. Take your hands out of your pockets. Next thing you know, he's on the ground. He's being tased. And it is a really upsetting thing to see amongst so many others that we've seen.
Yes.
I get some concern that, if there's this kind of problem in the States that goes from city to city to city, it tells us that it's a real pervasive concern. And I think Kaepernick is trying to say, look, the way in which people of my race have been treated, there's got to be a change made, and this is how I want to express it. I remember thinking that if the NFL really wanted to deal with it, not just throw a chunk of money into enlightenment, if they developed a program working with police services to try and find ways to be able to reduce the escalation of force. You don't simply jump to gun, and everybody reacts. There are some police forces that are terrific at it. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if working together with the NFLPA, they meet with police services across the country and work on developing a better training with respect to the use of force and restrained use of force. Kaepernick would say that's one of the things that I wanted to see happen. But that didn't happen.
No.
And so now I think you're right. There's a healthy economic basis for the owners saying, gee, we've lost some revenue, we've lost some interest, we're losing some concerns about sponsorship. So what we're going to do, notwithstanding it wasn't bargained for in the NFLPA, we're going to unilaterally impose this rule, and you guys are going to have to live with it. Well, the NFLPA is going to take them on, I expect.
There's been a couple owners too, like even in this case, and I'll just read you the quote. The New York Jets chairman, Chris Johnson, who is Woody Johnson's brother-in-law, has announced that he will pay all fines that players on the team receive for not standing during the national anthem because of that NFL ruling. And what's even more odd about this is Trump and Woody Johnson are actually close friends. Are we going to see more owners do this? It just seems like a never-ending story of, we'll do this for you, but we won't do this. The NFL will do this. The players. How could this possibly resolve? And will we see more people that step up like this and take a pro-player side?
From what I've read, Dave, it's apparently the penalty for players who come out onto the field and then don't stand is a fine against the team.
Right.
And so I guess the owner has said, that's fine. They'll do this. I'll pay the fine. Now, the way in which the owners have tried to do is to say, look, we aren't saying that you can't choose to stay in the locker room. It's just if you come out on the field. And I think I saw something else that said if you have to stand and, quote, show respect, unquote, to the national anthem.
Yeah.
So now you're into the issues of things like linked arms, fists raised.
Yes.
What are the other things that are going to be dinged, saying, 15 yards, disrespect, unsportsmanlike, respect for the flag. I wonder whether we're going to see counter-protests, as it were. Okay, I'm standing, but I'm doing something else.
Right.
And where are we going to find the line and what owners? I wouldn't be surprised, Dave, if at least a couple of other owners do that, except for this. Apparently, from what I heard, they spent hours and hours and hours and hours to come up with something they decided on unanimously. The owners did.
Yeah.
So any owner does that, you could wind up. Remember, Jerry Jones was talking about he didn't like Goodell's contract, and he was trying to go against that salary, and I think he wound up having to pay a fine for basically not playing ball with the owners and threatening litigation. So I wonder again whether we might see economic forces at work, that there might be other owners who say, hey, you don't adhere to our rule. We've all agreed to this, and you're letting your players basically flaunt it, we'll fine you. Where I think it could go, as I say, and I don't do labor and employment law, but if there's a collective bargaining agreement, could the players take the position, look, this was not something we bargained for, this is infringing our right to freedom of expression, and this is essentially an unfair labor practice that could be stopped. That's the route I think we're going to see.
Well, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, was on a show called, not surprisingly, Fox and Friends. Fox and Friends. And when he was told about this is what the president said. I think it's good. I don't think people should be staying in the locker rooms, but still, I think it's good. You have to stand proudly for the national anthem, or you shouldn't be playing. You shouldn't be there. Maybe you shouldn't even be in the country, quite honestly. That's what the president said.
Yeah, but he's the same guy who said that Canada is spoiled in the NAFTA negotiations.
And Mexico,
we've been playing it very tough. It's very, very tough to negotiate, and we've been spoiled. I thought to myself, and what's the penalty? We don't get chocolate pudding for dessert, or do we get sent to our room for grounding?
Well, he's saying he's met your president. He wasn't that impressed. The kids seem to be pretty and everything, but I don't think he really get the job. I think we all know that. I think that's the truth, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. All we have to do is just check back to the record of what you said the day before yesterday, and we might find something to contradict. But this is today.
Okay, you're wrong, but you're wrong.
As Trump would say, excuse me.
No.
You know what to say? Excuse me.
Yeah.
That's his shtick. Yeah.
Sage Rosenfeld, a former NFL quarterback, has been very boisterous about this. Forced patriotism is the opposite of freedom. He makes a great point. And another point he makes, I hope the NFL decides to completely stop concession stand sales during the anthems as well.
Wow. Sure.
So, I mean, it's a long, winding road of, okay, you can't do this, but you can do this. Can you do this? Can you do that?
The stoppages happen. I think we all agree that once it comes out, the NFL is, there's going to be a work stoppage, I guess is the way to put it. It's coming.
I wouldn't say it's over this, though.
No, it's not.
Unlikely.
I think over whether it was Zeke Elliott, I mean, just all those others that we've talked about on the show. I don't see how that you should not be prepared that there at some point will not be an NFL season, or at least the start to one.
Sure. The other way to phrase it too, mind you, is we might see a different form of job action on the part of the players. So if, for example, they say, look, we aren't going to deal with you from the standpoint of the national anthem, but we'll find other ways to get our message across. And meanwhile, Colin Kaepernick sits on the sideline while 16 other scrap heapers and guys are coming out of retirement. You know, Jay Cutler. We're going to bring you out of retirement rather than him. Who else can we get?
Yeah.
Who else have you got? Okay.
Can you get collusion on that, or is that just
no
too
collusion?
hard?
No,
Okay.
no collusion.
Okay. All right.
Okay, P-tape, no collusion. So that's the NFL. But Johnny Manziel has come to Hamilton.
Yeah.
Very exciting time for us.
I was going to say, exciting time to be a Ticats fan, right?
It absolutely is. I mean, I think Doug Flutie may well be the greatest player ever to play in the CFL.
I agree. We agree.
And Manziel has a number of those qualities. So let's be cautiously optimistic. You look at the skill set that he's got. Has he got an arm? Yeah. Has he got mobility? Yeah. Has he got vision and being able to, read defenses? Yeah, apparently so. Can it translate into the CFL? I mean, he's not the former Vince Ferragamo. Okay,
Right.
Manziel is a different package of talent, and I have some optimism.
He has qualities that you can see it when you watch a lot of NCAA football. That's why I was at Timmy Chang, when he came out of Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii.
And a lot of that where you see a smaller guy, more athletic guy, a guy who certainly has the mobility. But the thing that is always amazing about Doug Flutie is he's like the Captain Kirk of the CFL. Seemingly, when there's no way out, he finds one. All of a sudden, he's like, "Did you see what he did? He spun around. He faked that he was going to throw the ball. Then he ran, and then he threw the ball. Like he could do things that it was like Harlem Globetrotter like, and he would do it at the most crucial of times. He was, to me, like one of my favorite athletes of all time.
Me too.
So when people make the comparison, I'm with you. Like, throw caution out first. I mean, caution. Let me see him take a snap. Let me see him start a game. And again, it'll be a small sample that you'll see in preseason. But by September, so if Jeremiah Masoli is, and he's going to fight for that job, and he believes he's the starter, and he's right in thinking and going to camp that way. But at some point. And as Dave pointed out, their schedule to start the season is a mean one. So they're going out to Western Canada first. Wow, if you're a long-time Ticat fan, every time you go to Calgary or Edmonton, even during the good years or good teams, you can get it handed to them. They also have Winnipeg, too. Do they?
Yeah, Winnipeg's their home opener.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it goes Calgary, Edmonton, road, Winnipeg at home.
Well, so you might say, look, this is time for Manziel to watch Mazzoli to play.
Well, I think that's what's going to happen.
And the issue will then be a matter of, as Mazzoli is continuing to do well, assuming he does, then Manziel keeps learning. If there's some faltering, they might say, okay. If there's blowouts one way or the other, start to give Manziel some game time action. The question is, how good will Manziel have to be to displace Mazzoli? If Mazzoli's playing well, how much do you say, well, gee, this is a guy who has more star quality? Where do we make that switch?
Jerry Glanville calling the defense. Already he's been cautioned because he loves man and man-to-man, and so he loves the pressure defense, and so he was doing it in camp while there was like real quarterbacks, and they're like, no, you can't, Jerry, we really can't have our guys, being harassed like that. We need to understand the offense first. But the whole package of all these guys, you got the younger group of Ticat fans going, are you kidding? What's the average age of the coaches over there? Like 100? But that being said, there is, as I talked about before with Steve Milton from the Spec, I said, but there is a DNA going on, football DNA, where they all speak that same language, including Jeremiah Masoli. I like what I see. I got my fingers crossed, because not just for the Ticats. You got ESPN coming up and sending people to cover this. Dave just mentioned all the games that are going to be on
68 games plus the entire playoffs will be on ESPN networks.
This could be really key for the CFL. I got my fingers crossed, because a healthy CFL, we're the only league that thinks this way. Like Milty said, geez, Montreal might not be very good. And I'm like, good. Because I hate Montreal. They drive me nuts. But he goes, no, hold on. We need relative health in Montreal and in BC. We're the only league as fans, we kind of understand that conversation.
Sure, and in fact, with that U.S. Supreme Court decision on opening up the world of sports betting,
yes.
Are we going to see
isn't
lines on the
that-
CFL?
oh.
Are we going to have to check the morning line, right? We're going to get down
We
to
can
the
help you out
sports
with
book.
that.
Oh, sure, we
Isn't that
could.
your favorite
Yeah.
book, Mike, the sports book?
Sure, of course. It's the only book I've ever read.
And reread.
Yeah, and people said, when I wrote my book, they're like, aren't you supposed to read one first before you write one?
That's Trump and the art of the deal.
There you go. We have to run. I see Bob from Burlington Bob. And let me tell you something. He has been a great fan of ours since Dave and I started at TSN 1050.
Years ago, too.
Yeah,
well, this guy, too, right here.
Yeah.
That's how we first connected.
And people are saying, TSN 1050, what's that? It was a radio station. It's no longer that. But what I find particularly irritating about him today, does he have to wear the Western colors everywhere he goes? Does he need to wear a Western? Goddamn! I mean, the people from Western, they drive me nuts. And I'll tell you something else. If I'm sitting down with Bob, he could tell me all the great stories, the Mustangs over the years. What does it say? Is it a hat?
Fortina. Yeah, it's not Western.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. See, now you take that back.
Emily Latella. Never mind.
Fiorentina and Western are the same. I never thought of that. Why would he be wearing a Fiorentina cap?
Figured you knew something about major soccer, international
there's
soccer.
something not right about this crowd today. And then there's another distinguished-looking gentleman, and I don't trust him either.
Milt, that's Uncle Milt from Hamilton.
Uncle Milt.
Long-time sports fan, retired lawyer, and knows a lot about sports. And sometimes will blog for the New York Times, and they will sometimes.
I don't know. I think
from Hamilton.
I think I've seen him at the Social Club in Hamilton with Pops Papilia. I don't know about this group here. I don't know what's going on.
Bulldogs had a nice season.
Oh, hey, I went to a few of the games.
I know you did.
Outstanding.
That's
and right
good.
now, if Swift Current had knocked off Regina, they're automatically at the final.
Yes.
But they have got a fun team.
Yeah.
Let's go Bulldogs.
It was
fast skating too. If you haven't been to junior hockey for a while, I would commend it to anybody. The pace of play.
Oh no, it is good. It's exceptional. It is exceptional.
Sensational.
Thanks so much for coming in, my friend.
My pleasure.
Always good to see you,
Thanks, Jeff.
Bob,
Good to see David.
Uncle Milty. Now I was going to say Uncle Milty when I think Uncle
He's
Milty.
a different Uncle Milty.
Okay.
Maybe
Okay,
call
good.
for makeup.
Yeah.
Different Uncle Milty.
There's also other things about Uncle Milty that seemingly were larger than life.
Oh,
That's how
hey.
I'm going to put it.
Just show him enough to win. That's the line. Just show him enough to win.
Okay, going out. This will not be the best segue, we do now have that tape of Sterling Brown, and once again, this is from this is so look for yourself. And again, if you haven't seen it beforehand, I will say this: as much as stuff that you're going to see on the internet, and a lot of it, quite frankly, you don't want your kids to see or even yourself. This, for what it's worth, is a little upsetting. And it's going to take a couple of seconds as they're sort of corralling him. Again, this is a parking violation at a Walgreens. And when the policeman yells out, taser, 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 you can hear Sterling sort of grunt and moan and react to the pain that is inflicted upon him. And this, quite frankly, folks, is the reason why they started kneeling in the first place. And maybe that whole issue is not over yet, regardless of what the NFL says. Here it comes.
Attack now! I got stuff in my hand. The ground! Oh, they got taser? Hold on. Taser!
There it is. Here it comes. And there, once again, that courtesy of the Guardian, there you saw and heard what happened to Sterling Brown. And I would think, now, there's going to be obviously ramifications for that. And I would think if you're the defense team, if that's the way he's going to go, do you not have a lot on your side in terms of being a defense attorney for him? Because I don't see anything that remotely said to me proper policing.
I have a suspicion that the parking ticket part of the case won't proceed. I just have this sort of
this
gut instinct.
In your years of professional experience?
Yeah,
yes.
On the other hand, the civil rights lawsuit by Brown against the police, and whether these police officers, A, keep their jobs, or B, get disciplined. The mayor of Milwaukee's already been on. He found it very disturbing. It's Exhibit A. But then remember the Rodney King case, from years ago with the police officers there. So let's proverbially, to use Trump's phrase, how would he say wait and see? Let's wait and see. He does that all the time. Let's wait and see. It could be good. Not good.
Well, it could be huge. I'll be honest. It's the video that was taken wasn't professional. It wasn't very good. So you've got to see other angles, because I'll be honest, the police are great people. I mean, they're fantastic people. You know that. I've worked with them for the years. I'm a big fan of the police. So let's just take time with that.
Seriously, Russell, did you not have the picture of Trump up there while I'm doing the whole Trump, and he's got Trump on the other screen? Well, that is a tremendous way to end the show. I'll tell you.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.